2023. During the Lunar New Year festival, a video started circulating in California's Chinese community, showing a woman at a lunar lantern festival in LA. During the festival, the woman suddenly rushed to the front of the stage shouting, "I have been personally threatened. If you don't see me after tonight, I'm dead, and you all need to be my witness." Before she could finish her speech, staff intervened and stopped her. Upbeat music played, seemingly to drown out her voice. The woman then tried to grab the MC's mic, but was prevented again by the organizers. The whole fiasco resulted in a tug-of-war on stage. During the struggle, the woman's jacket fell off, briefly revealing her brilliant figure. It was only much later that the woman was revealed to went to the wrong event and was actually looking for somebody at the event next door. Anyways, she quickly left, leaving the attendees bewildered. The question in the air was she a wrongfully terminated employee or a betrayed spouse seeking justice? An attendee from the second event claims that the woman initially was at the wrong venue, but then went to the event that they were at and caused a shitstorm for over half an hour, eventually lying flat on the ground. It took 10 police officers to remove her. In the end, the man she was looking for, however, didn't even appear. Apparently, he was sick. The whole thing made people really want to know, who is this man? So let me spill the tea for you. If you listen closely to the video, amongst the commotions, you can be like hearing a name, Charles Huang Chunhua. So who is this Charles? On September 6th, 2024, LA Times published a bombshell article that shocked the Chinese community in LA. Billionaire Chinese-American businessman Charles Huang was allegedly targeted by a former employee, demanding a $20 million hush money payment. The employee reportedly used explicit recordings of sex tapes of the two as blackmail. The news rippled through the Chinese community. Charles was known as a business leader and a philanthropist, and had been featured in many times in mainstream media.
U.S. businessman Charles Huang donates 50 million euro to
巴士華商黃春華捐贈英國母校5000萬。
黃春華基金會準備向湖北劉道育教育基金會捐贈100萬美金。
華裔企業家黃春華向中國武漢大學捐贈4000萬美元。
Some speculated that Charles was the victim of the Badger game extortion scheme. However, insider sources suggested that the former employee was actually his mistress. That was the woman who caused the huge scene at the Lunar New Year event the year earlier. Today, let me spill the tea on this allegedly sex extortion case involving our prominent Chinese-American billionaire, Charles Huang. When we talk about Charles, one needs to mention another prominent and controversial figure, Yang Rong, in his orbit. We had a previous episode in Chinese detailing Yang Rong's story. Yang Rong was the founder of Chery Automobile and was considered the father of Chinese domestic car industry. After facing asset seizures and dismissal from his work, he left the dreams behind and relocated to America. Charles was a trusted associate of Yang, and he also relocated to USA with them. Their friendship continued after relocating, and therefore Charles' story is part of the larger narratives of prominent figures like, "You are the company you keep." The sweeping changes of this era might have been unimaginable to the older generations of the automotive entrepreneurs. Many years later, Charles also crafted a wealth legend that rivals that of his former boss, Yang Rong. During the pandemic, which started in 2020, Charles managed to amass tens of billions of dollars in just a couple of years. With his newfound wealth, he made substantial donations, $70 million and $40 million respectively, to his two alma maters, breaking the personal donation records in both institutions' histories. At this point, Charles was like the money god. Anyone who got close could seemingly gain prosperity. Some even saw him as a walking piggy bank. Breaking the piggy bank open would burst out the riches. As Charles the Great philanthropist stood atop at the pedestal and showered money at this famished world, an unexpected storm was quietly gathering, soon to entangle him in a web of scandal and betrayal. Charles was born in a tiny, impoverished village located in the northern part of Wuhan, Hubei province of China. The district is quite significant for its birthplace of Chu culture, which is dating all the way back to the Zhou dynasty. Historically, it had been the capital twice. However, in the late 1960s, Hubei's economic conditions were generally bad, particularly in rural areas where life was really difficult. Charles' village was one of the poorest of the poor, with economic development hampered by factors such as low-lying geography and poor land quality. Even today, in his village, the per capita income is low. Charles was born into this struggling village in 1964. His parents were illiterate, and they had 8 children. In the aftermath of the 3-year famine, a farming couple like his parents, raising so many children, faced a momentous task of securing basic necessities, let alone their children's education and development. Charles was the first son in his large family with 2 sisters before him. As the eldest son, he was fortunate to have the opportunity for education, but this came with added responsibilities, such as bearing the family's name and its future development. After he became successful, Charles once said, "As the eldest son, I had more responsibilities from a young age. This both put me under pressure and motivated me. It was the crucial factor for my success, for it instilled in me a sense of responsibility that continuously drove me forward. I believe for everyone, while we cannot choose our parents, we can choose the path we take for the future." Very profound. The path Charles took was to firmly seize his educational opportunities and escape through learning. He believed that only through education could he break free from the shackles of poverty and provide a better life for his family. After achieving success, this belief led him to make significant donations to his alma mater, Wuhan University. He believes that his experience studying at Wuhan University laid the crucial foundation for his later rise in the business world. When making his donation, Charles expressed with deep emotion, "Attending Wuhan University was an important starting point for me to step into the world. I am convinced that my personal achievements could not have been possible without the nurturing from my alma mater." In September 1982, after achieving the top grade for his collegial entrance exam in Wuhan, and that's super hard, Charles enrolled in Wuhan University's Economic and Management program. He was decisive, applying only to this university and this one specific program, without agreeing to any adjustment. Such a bold choice required not only confidence, but also a firm belief in his future direction. Charles knew clearly what he wanted and he was willing to take risks for it. This courage and decisiveness became key trait supporting his later success in business. In June 1986, Charles graduated with top marks from his class and was recommended for a graduate program in business administration at Wuhan University's management program. Back then in China, university students were highly valued, and graduate students from prestigious universities were the cream of the cream. At this point, Charles had already changed his destiny through education, successfully making a leap in his social class. But he was not satisfied yet. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, when China's reform and opening by its leader Deng Xiaoping, there was a huge surge of students going to study abroad. Charles, upon completing his graduate studies, was determined to pursue further education overseas and become one of them. In 1988, Charles received a scholarship from the British government to study at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. A year later, he earned an MBA degree, and in 1994 he obtained a PhD in marketing from the same institution. The experience of studying in UK broadened Charles' horizon and allowed him to build a valuable network. In 1994, he went to work at China Capital Analysis at James Capel, now HSBC Securities in Hong Kong, analyzing B shares, H shares, and red chip stocks in China, the beginning of his career in investment banking. Charles was involved in nearly 20 IPOs and secondary market finances for both mainland Chinese and Hong Kong companies. After Hong Kong went back to China from UK in 1997, Charles became a pioneer. During the period from 1999 to 2001, he was financing the first batch of private enterprises from China to list in the Hong Kong stock market. In the year 2000, Charles joined Brilliance Group, founded by his old buddy, Yang Rong, as the chief financial officer, playing a key role in strategic collaboration between Brilliance and the UK's MG Rover Group. What a change! In 2007, Charles joined BNP Paribas in Paris as a director of Chinese asset research and strategy. He achieved remarkable results in just 2 years, earning the nickname Golden Fingers. In 2009, Charles immigrated to the U.S. to join Hybrid Kinetic Motors, a company founded by his old buddy Yang Rong after he got to the U.S. Charles again collaborated with his former boss and quickly rose to executive director and vice chairman. In 2016, at the age of 52, and while still the vice chairman of Hybrid Kinetic Motors, Charles decided to start his own company, Pasaka, a company primarily investing in medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and food products. In 2022, Charles stated in an interview that he had set 2 initial goals for the company. Number 1, achieving significant success within 5 years, and number 2, donating $100 million after its success. However, these statements were made after Pasaka Capital had already achieved substantial success and wealth. In the initial 3 to 4 years, however, the company didn't experience any major breakthrough, facing difficulties in securing investments. This is quite common for financial companies. With its previous trajectory, fueling his ambitious goals seemed highly improbable for Charles. And then COVID hit. The global pandemic unexpectedly transformed many lives. While some lost loved ones or faced economic ruins, others seized opportunities. Charles was among the lucky ones. During the pandemic, there was a severe shortage of medical supplies and testing equipment worldwide. While the demand for them surged, Charles captured this billion-dollar business opportunity very early and acted quickly. Charles joined forces with Yang Rong's nephew, Mr. Xi, to establish Innova Medical Group at the beginning of the pandemic, focusing on the supply of testing and prevention materials. In order to devote himself to this new business, Charles resigned from hybrid kinetic motors and concentrated on running Innova Medical. At the time, the British government announced the launch of National COVID-19 Testing Plan, Operation Moonshot. This project, of course, had nothing to do with the moon landing. Moonshot referred to a challenging project. Specifically, the UK had planned to test 10 million times a day to control the pandemic. Unfortunately, the local production capacity was seriously not up to par, and the capability did not match its ambition, so UK had to import. The British government first selected 5 suppliers from the rapid test regions submitted by more than 130 suppliers from around the world. After multiple rounds of testing, Charles Innova Medical passed the test and was among the 5. In September of the same year, Innova received the first large order from the British Ministry of Health, 18 million test kits, but the conditions were also pretty tough. They had to deliver within 20 days. But Charles was smart. In fact, even before securing this order, he had already started production in China in advance. Even with the advanced start, however, it was difficult to produce and provide so many test kits in such a short time. Innova's supply capacity was about 250,000 test kits per day, and in order to meet the delivery, the company had to fill a gap of 650,000 test kits. Under the direction of Charles, the order was completed by integrating the supply chain and working overtime to expand production, making Innova the only supplier out of the 5 that was able to deliver on time. The British government was very pleased and signed a second order with Innova the same day, this time for 157 million test kits. This amazing success has enabled Innova Medical to rise rapidly and become a giant in the supplier of medical materials. At the end of 2021, Innova Medical has provided more than 2 billion rapid test kits to the world. According to Charles himself, as of 2022, Innova Medical's cumulative net profit exceeded $2 billion. Charles became rich overnight and joined the ranks of billionaires. Interestingly, after Innova achieved unprecedented success, Charles stopped attracting investment. Boom! The official website of his company still says, the company is not currently seeking external capital. After achieving great success in business, Charles immediately decided to give back to his alma mater in the form of donations. He established the Wang Chunhua Foundation. In September 2021, he first donated $70 million to Strathclyde, Glasgow in UK through the foundation, and then 2 months later donated $40 million to Wuhan University to express his gratitude to the 2 alma maters. Both donations are the largest individual donations ever made to the 2 schools. In addition to donating to his alma mater, Charles also donated to other organizations such as San Francisco's Donghua Hospital, LA's Methodist Hospital, LA's Art District. Just a few examples. in recognition of the great contributions made by this Chinese entrepreneur to the American society in education, job creation, and economic stimulus. In 2021, Charles won the title of California Businessman of the Year, Philanthropist of the Year, and Outstanding Person of the Year. Finally, Charles has leaped from being a poor rural academic nerd to a world elite and beacon of the Chinese community. Suddenly, a report in the LA Times caused this halo to shatter. The article revealed a case of sexual extortion and the defendant, Sun Xiaolei, aka Sunny, who repeatedly appeared in the case attracting strong attention. Remember the lady at the beginning of the story making a scene at the Lantern Festival? Yes, that lady. And in fact, after that incident, someone who was familiar with Charles recognized her. The defendant used to be the public relations director of Charles' financial company. Sunny had previously accompanied Charles to attend the events hosted by Wuhan University's California Alumni Association. As the LA Times revealed the truth, the public began to realize that behind this successful persona, there might be a web of entangled, salacious extramarital affair. This tale of affair cracked open all the cracks in Charles' new shining hero armor. On September the 6th, 2024, 41-year-old Sunny, 58-year-old Lu Hua Stern, and 64-year-old Xiao Dong received a primary hearing in the Pasadena Superior Court for sexual extortion against Charles Huang. Charles spent 2 days describing his relationship with Sunny. Charles said that Sunny had previously lived in New York and was a fitness coach. In April 2022, Charles offered Sunny a high-paying position in his company. In May, he bought a townhouse in the name of the company as an employee dormitory and arranged for Sunny to live in it. The two apparently only had sex 5 or 6 times in the next few months. But the relationship was completely terminated at the end of 2022. How did Charles and Sunny meet each other? This was not mentioned. But rumors had it that Sunny was Charles' fitness coach at first, and later the two developed into a romantic relationship. There is very little information about Sunny on the internet. However, never underestimate the power of netizens. A series of YouTube videos suspected to be Sunny was soon discovered. In the video, she's self-acclaimed the first Chinese-American female sex counselor in the United States. In the video, she goes by Sunny as her English name. All the videos were released in 2021. Sunny is dressed casually and has launched a series of in-depth and easy-to-understand topics around sex. Though some of the content might cause a bit of hush if you opened it in a corporate office. For example, in one video, Sunny used banana as a phallic reference, teaching everyone how to measure size, and even summarize a set of reference formulas for how to get sexual satisfaction. These might have raised a few eyebrows in the Chinese community, judging from the black mole between the eyebrows and the name in the introduction below the video. Netizens concluded that this Miss Sunny Sun is most likely Sun Xiaolei. In 2020, Sunny also participated in a TV show called Crazy Hot Fitness, teaching everyone how to lose weight and exercise at home. Unfortunately, no video material about this TV show can be found anywhere. The show might have been cancelled or no longer in distribution, who knows? Either way, Sunny's effort didn't create much of a start for her career. The onlookers then followed the clues and found Sunny's LinkedIn homepage. Since her Facebook and LinkedIn had the same name and used the same profile picture, it basically determined that this is indeed Sun Xiaolei, aka Sunny. From LinkedIn, we can see that Sunny graduated from North China University in Taiyuan, Shanxi, majoring in social sports, Upper Valley. After graduating in 2006, she first worked as a fitness coach in Taiyuan. From 2008 to 2011, she obtained a jazz dance coach qualification certificate in the United States. The last work experience was in a fitness club in Beijing in 2013. It's uncertain why she went to the United States in the first place and what job she held after 2013. Objectively speaking, whether in terms of life experience, educational background, or social status, the worlds of Charles and Sunny traveled in very different circles. Charles struggled from a rural China to become a billionaire and went through hard schooling and gained business experience along the way. While Sunny's path is less stereotypical. A fitness coach seems to be her job and the job that she's good at. But it's a world apart from the money circle where Charles travels in. Maybe the budding of love is blind, or perhaps it's opposite attract, where Sunny yearns for Charles' lifestyle and Charles attracted by Sunny's youth and vitality. As time went by, these differences, however, gradually became rifts. Different values, different lifestyles gradually torn the relationship between the two. After the breakup, Sunny was unwilling to accept the end of the relationship. While she found it emotionally difficult to accept the breakup, she also had a hard time letting go of the luxurious life she enjoyed when she was with Charles. Then the story had the following development. Shortly after the two broke up, in February of 2023, a woman named Lu Hua approached Charles and asked him to meet at a Starbucks coffee in Arcadia. We mentioned Lu Hua earlier. She is one of the defendants in the case, as is her second husband, Xiaodong. How did this couple came to know Sunny? After her divorce, she did not change her name and had no means of supporting herself, so she started prostitution. Li Hua later married her second husband, Xiaodong. Li Hua thought about divorcing her second husband too, but for some reason, she decided not to. She had been in the United States for many years, but at the hearings, she still needed a Chinese translator, so her English is probably not very good. And one of the reasons that she cannot support herself financially. It's easy to see that Li Hua's second marriage was probably in shambles too, as she tried to open a massage parlor, which was probably the same nature as her previous business. And maybe due to her criminal record, Li Hua was rejected when she first applied for a license, and then, however, she was granted a temporary license after applying again. And in 2013, for some reason, Li Hua did not want to renew the temporary license that she had finally obtained. According to the police, the couple was Sunny's representative in this sexual extortion case, and they represented Sunny in negotiations with Charles. Li Hua made a big claim to Charles in the coffee shop, saying that Sunny had secretly installed surveillance cameras in the villa and filmed several sex scenes of the two of them. She demanded $200 million in hush money And if Charles was unwilling to pay the money, the videos would be made public. To most people, this is a huge number. Even the American president doesn't pay that much in hush money. Li Hua and Sunny are well aware of Charles' weakness as the honorable reputation that he wants to upkeep. Sure enough, Charles was shocked and terrified. He never thought that his lover was well prepared, and this was simply a premeditated trap. In order to keep the secret hidden, he agreed to pay. However, he claimed that $200 million was a bit too high. He didn't have that much money, as the money was all locked up in his company. Finally, after 3 rounds of negotiations, the parties agreed to settle the matter for a mere $20 million. And Charles quickly gave Sunny the first payment of $600,000. Charles explained his behavior in the court. He said as a public person, as a businessman, his public image and reputation were crucial to his career. Over the past few decades, the image of a role model in the Chinese business community that he had worked so hard to obtain not only won him social status, but also became an important capital for him to develop his business empire on. If the sex tapes were to be made public, this would not only break up his marriage with his wife, but could also cause immeasurable damage to his reputation in the business community. More importantly, Charles's family would directly become victims of public gossip, especially with his newly born grandson. He was just unwilling to let that happen, to let his extended family bear this intense scrutiny. Additionally, Charles has always publicly expressed his admiration and that he follows the traditional Chinese value of cultivating oneself, managing the family, governing the country, and pacifying the world. Now, if the sex videos are exposed to the world, isn't it like being caught with his pants down literally? This would so make him look like a hypocrite. Next time one acquaintance sees it, they might say, "Mr. Huang, how come this self-cultivating and family building be edited into such a love action movie? How embarrassing would that be?" The cost of this embarrassment may be much higher than the $20 million. After weighing the pros and the cons, he decided to agree to Sunny's request, hoping to settle the matter with money and save his family and reputation. Charles had been in business world for decades. He soon realized that $20 million was by no means the end of this. It might just be the beginning of his nightmares. What if the other party continued to blackmail him after he paid $20 million? It's obvious that the people he was dealing with were not exactly honorable. So, while dealing with the 3 defendants, he hired lawyers and private detectives to secretly collect evidence of their wrongdoings. After gathering enough evidence, he reported the case to the police. On May 2023, Charles asked Li Hua to meet him at the park, where she was ambushed and captured by the police, who had been waiting for her. The next day, her husband was also captured. Seeing this situation, Sunny surrendered herself. She seemed to be the smarter of the 3. But since sexual extortion is a criminal case, the local prosecutor filed a lawsuit against all 3. At the hearing, the prosecutor did not show any explosive sex tapes, but mentioned that Charles said that Li Hua played a short video on her phone after leaving a lot to the imagination, in which in the video he was taking off his pants. The prosecutor said that the three people had constituted all the elements of extortion, and if convicted, they could be sentenced up to 4 years in prison. All three pleaded not guilty. Sunny's lawyer argued that she was not blackmailing, and to some extent, she was the victim. You see, in 2023, Miss Sunny sent out a letter to Charles through a lawyer, accusing him of luring Miss Sunny from New York to Pasadena, California, under the disguise of work. The incident this time was actually because Sunny wanted to reach a settlement with Charles, but the negotiation method was clumsy. On the other hand, the lawyer for Li Hua and her husband had another version of the event. They said that they were actually the real victims, as they were all Charles' employees, workers. They negotiated with Sunny to help Charles solve this problem. Their thinking was that they always called Charles boss in their communication with him. Li Hua also said Charles had talked to them about the possibility of business cooperation and once vowed to her, if you can sell the Innova test kit to casinos in Las Vegas, we can even talk about some stock options. However, in the Chinese culture, the word boss is often just a respectful title and doesn't really mean anything, nor does it represent a real employment relationship. Finally, the judge ruled that the prosecution was established and the three will be formally tried in 2025. So in this case, although Charles was in the position of victim, a lot of his dirty laundry were hung out to dry at the hearing. For example, he admitted that he had sex with another senior executive of the company. Sunny also filed a civil lawsuit against Charles in April 2024, accusing him of sexual assault and sex trafficking and other illegal acts. While this sex tape extortion hearing was going on, Charles was also exposed to be implicated in several other civil lawsuits with former business partners. He accused of 2 former partners of stealing more than $106 million in commissions, while the other party countersued, saying Charles squandered the company funds on bad investments and luxurious lifestyle, including paying his lover a high salary for bogus job title. One of the former partners who sued Charles was Mr. Xu, the nephew of his former boss, Yang Rong. Court documents show that Mr. Xu said that he had known Charles for over 20 years. After 2020, Charles gave him a collaboration offer for Innova Medical and promised him 50% of the company's shares. So as a result, Mr. Xi moved his family from Pasadena and paid a lot of the upstart cost in the early stages of the company's operation. After the company achieving great success, Mr. Xi claimed Charles had not given him the shares that he had promised. Instead, Charles regarded the company as his own private company and used the company's funds to provide himself with a luxurious lifestyle, including buying an $18 million mansion, $70 million private jet. Mr. Xi demanded $400 million from Charles as his compensation. Then, of course, that's Mr. Xi's version of the event. In Charles' mind, he thinks that after Mr. Xi seeing Charles' generous donations to the various institutions, Mr. Xi became dissatisfied and wanted to get higher returns. Charles felt that if it wasn't for him, they would never been able to accumulate so much wealth in their lifetime, that all these other partners, they're just being greedy. At this point, Charles, his old friend and former boss, who had worked together for so many years together, torn up their relationship and parted ways, which really fits the Chinese idiom. Partners are sometimes like husbands and wives. They can share hardships, but not happiness. As a result of this affair, Charles exposed himself to many, many lawsuits and parted ways with a number of his partners, which may be worse than the affair itself, for it damaged his reputation as a businessman. Charles's wife, Mrs. Huang, who also learned about the affair, thought about applying for a divorce initially, but then withdrew it for unknown reasons. There was enough to show that Charles' family has also started to have cracks in its foundation. A model of success for a Chinese Confucian businessman ended up in such an embarrassing situation because of the sin of lust. This is truly sad, a truly sad situation. Charles' story is not only a microcosm of wealth and power, but also a reflection of deep desire and fragility of human nature. When Charles left that tiny little village of his way back, his destiny changed. And after decades of working hard and climbing up the business world, Charles probably never thought that a little lovemaking in the videotape which he's starting could send his destiny crushing down. Such a sad conclusion.